Hi, we are Team DodgeBot, and today we will quickly be running you through what we have done so far. Our demo will be split into three parts: our pipeline for gathering data, training and deploying our ML model, and finally a quick run through of our UI.
So if you look at our pipeline, it has three main components and a lot of buckets. So the component A over here is hosted on an E2 instance. So if we take a look at our compute engines, we can see that right now there's two active web scraper in order to maximize the data throughput. And if we take a look at one of them, we can see that this was the execution of last night. It finished with exit code 0, and I just restarted them with a new API key. And they're gonna run for 24 hours again. And if we take a look at the logs, we can see that how they're performing right now in real time. Right. So we can see that let's say like the Japan container is currently it managed to mine all two tiers, and now it's processing for the iron summoners, and there's only 11 pages. And the same thing we can see for all the other regions. Once this is done, what's gonna happen is it's gonna go upload the data, so the data from the CSV the data from the CSVs into our buckets. So if we go into storage, we can see that in DodgeBot over here, this is the bucket that's gonna go upload to. And let's take a look at Japan again. Let's go back to iron. So it's gonna go upload to the matches over here. So now you can see that there's data from previous runs. Once the data uploads, it's gonna trigger a function, which is over here, which is gonna clean and resize the data. So if we take a look at our cloud functions, we can see that it's gonna it's a function called clean and resize, and it gets triggered by every upload of the DodgeBot bucket. So how it's done is through a trigger. And on the trigger, we can see that when a file gets created or finalized, it's going to trigger this function. And we can see some metrics over here, such as for the last 30 days. We can see that like the bucket all ran successfully, and it's cleaning the data properly. And we can also take a look at the logs. So this is very important. If there's a bug in our in the pipeline, we can track it down. So for this function, it's gonna go read from the remainder bucket. So the remainder bucket, what it does is it's the data from the previous run. So if we take a look at these are all like ordered data from every region elo pair of the servers. So we can see there's a 99 total. And if we take a look at one of them, you can just simply see that it's a file full of match IDs, row, and lane, right? So the function, what it does is once the file reaches 35,000 line, so once the remainder file reaches 35,000 line, it's gonna upload it to the process data. So every data in the process pipeline are unique. So the match ID are unique. And this is very important for the machine learning models. And let's say if the files are less than 35,000 lines, it's going to go back in the remainder bucket, so to be processed on the next iteration, right? So we have like EU North Challenger, EU North Diamond. So next time that we run EU North Diamond, it's going to concatenate with this file, and it's going to clean all the duplicates in order to have unique data points. So if we take a look at our processed pipeline, processed bucket, we can see that it's a similar layout than the first one. So if we take a look at in here, diamond, and we can see some data. So most of data are 2.2 megabytes because that's 35,000 lines entry. And we figure out that 35,000 line entry is around the maximum that we can input to our last E2 instance, or it mines for the match ID. So one of the file output could look like this. So there was a bug the other day, so I'm just having on the old match IDs. And if we take a look at, let's say, Korea gold, because that's usually where most of the data is, and we download this file, we can see the output file. So it's gonna have like the game ID, the red team span, the red team's pick. Same goes for blue team, and also if the red team won. So 0 means they lost, and 1 means they won. Usually the -1 in the entries means that there were no ban. So a player can decide if if they don't want to ban any champions. And this is pretty much it for the quick walkthrough about our pipeline.
To gather data and train our ML model, we use Google Colab. Essentially, this is broken down into 3 parts. First, we had our obsolete way of gathering data manually, our upgraded version loading it from Google Cloud buckets, and third, actually training the ML model. So initially, we found a bunch of match IDs on the Riot API, loaded those in, and for each match ID, got the information and downloaded that to a CSV file. We realized that this is not a very scalable way of doing this, so we ended up loading our data, our match IDs, into Google buckets and reading from there instead, in a very similar manner. To train the ML model, we used a Keras sequential model, defined as so. We trained it over 150 epochs, got around 53 to 54% accuracy depending on small variations, and saved the model. Once the model was saved, we load it into a Python backend. And here you can see we have one function called predictWinner, which takes in information in a form like this. So for each team, you have 5 champions with their matching champion IDs, which we then feed into our model and return a win percentage. So for this particular instance, we say we have a 25.9% chance of winning. Otherwise, if we use a different configuration, you have a 50.66% chance of winning. We then use this and load this into our front end.
So basically, this is just the temporary UI. It's a little bit more simplified. So you just have here selecting your champions. So you can just type in a champion name and it'll turn from red to green. And then when you hover over any of the buttons, it moves up, so you know it's a button. And then same as down here, it'll change to green. And if you haven't filled out all the fields, it'll tell you to fill out a field. And then basically just when you close the window to a certain size, this becomes the entire window. And yeah,